Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hi there.
Each time, we take a whole stack of sources, articles, reports, notes, you name it, and we basically pull out the most vital bits of insight for you.
That's the goal.
And today, we're jumping into the world of someone whose name is, well, pretty much everywhere, Bill Gates, innovation, wealth, philanthropy.
Right, a really complex figure. And our mission today is to get past the usual headlines.
Exactly. We want to unpack the big moments in his life.
From, the early tech stuff, Microsoft's rise, right through to what he's doing now with global health and the foundation.
We're aiming to pull out those surprising details, the key insights, give you a shortcut to really understanding him better.
You might even have a few aha moments. We hope so.
Definitely. And we've got a good mix of sources, some excerpts from a speech he gave back in 2011, the World Health Assembly.
Yeah, plus various biographies and even a documentary looking into his motivations and impact.
Okay, ready to get into it.
Let's do it.
So let's start right at the beginning. William Henry Gates III, born in Seattle, October 28, 1955.
And interestingly, his family background,
Hmm.
they really encouraged competition.
Yeah, and his parents actually wanted him to go into law.
But his talents obviously lay elsewhere pretty early on, right?
Oh, yeah. Age 13, this is 1968, he gets his hands on a computer at Lakeside School.
A private school,
Right. And he teaches himself BASIC.
which, for context, is beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code, an early programming language.
He learned it on a teletype terminal.
Yeah.
Basically like a remote typewriter connected to a computer somewhere else.
Wow, and his first program.
Tick-tick-toe.
Ah, classic. But even before Microsoft, that entrepreneurial spark was there.
Totally. He teamed up with Paul Allen, his friend.
While still teenagers, yeah? They started this thing called Trafodata. He was only 15.
Trafodata, what did it do?
They were analyzing traffic patterns.
Yeah.
Using a pretty basic computer for the time.
And they actually made money from it.
They did. Around $20,000, which was serious money back then, especially for kids.
That's incredible. It really shows that early knack for seeing a problem and thinking, hey, computers can fix this.
Exactly. And maybe make some money doing it. A pattern, you could say.
You definitely see that aptitude. He crushed his SATs, scored 1590 out of 1600.
Wow.
Gets into Harvard in 73, starts off pre-law, like his parents wanted.
But the computers pulled him in.
Pretty quickly, yeah. Spent all his time in the computer lab, apparently.
And Harvard didn't last long, did it?
Nope, just 2 years. In 1975, he makes this huge call to drop out
Bold move.
and co-found Microsoft, originally with Paul Allen.
Right, because they saw an opportunity with the Altair 8800.
Explain that.
The Altair was one of the very first personal computers people could actually afford. Kind of kick-started the whole home computer thing.
And Gates and Allen got a contract to write a basic operating system for it.
Exactly. And in those early years, Gates was intensely involved, like really involved.
So
Sources say for the first 5 years, he personally reviewed and often rewrote basically every single line of code the company produced.
wow, that's intense. Shows that focus on the product, the quality, the control right from the start.
Definitely.
Okay, so they started Microsoft. They're coding like crazy. But what was the real breakthrough? The moment that put them on the map? Big time.
That would have to be the IBM deal in 1980.
IBM, the giant.
The giant, yeah. They were building their first PC, the IBM PC, and they needed software. They came to Microsoft.
And Microsoft delivered?
Well, they actually acquired an operating system called 86-DOS, adapted it, and licensed it to IBM as PC-DOS.
Ah, okay. So they didn't build it entirely from scratch for IBM.
No, it was a smart strategic move.
Yeah.
Buying and adapting. That deal, partnering with IBM, that's what really set Microsoft up for dominance, paved the way for Windows later on.
And from there, he was chairman, CEO, chief software architect for decades.
Right, until he started stepping back from the day-to-day around 2014.
And then fully left the Microsoft board in March 2020.
To dedicate himself completely to the philanthropy side.
Yeah. And just thinking about the wealth aspect, youngest billionaire at 31,
It's astonishing.
held the world's wealthiest title for, 18 years on and off?
Something like that, yeah. Between 95 and 2017, mostly.
And now 2025 estimates put his net worth around 114, maybe $115 billion.
Somewhere in that ballpark. But he's always said he plans to give most of it away.
Right. Famously committed to leaving only a modest inheritance, quote unquote, to his kids.
Which is still probably quite a lot.
Probably. But yeah, that scale of wealth, it's hard to even comprehend.
It really is.
Which makes that shift, from hardcore tech mogul to global health advocate even more striking. Was it a slow change, or did something specific trigger it?
Sources point to some very specific catalysts. A big aha moment seems to have been a trip in 1994,
Where'd he go?
sub-Saharan Africa. And seeing the level of disease, the poverty, it apparently hit him hard.
Okay.
But maybe even more impactful was something in 1998 after his first child was born.
What happened then?
He learned about rotavirus.
Rotavirus.
Yeah, a major cause of deadly diarrhea in young kids, especially in developing countries, killing like 500,000 children a year back then.
500,000 kids. Wow.
And the thing that struck him, according to these accounts, was that he'd never even heard of it because his family, his world, wasn't at risk.
That's a powerful realization. Shows that disconnect.
Exactly. Even someone with his resources and access could be totally unaware of a massive global health crisis because it didn't touch his immediate circle. It highlights that gap philanthropy tries to bridge.
And sources say learning about this inequity, it actually made him angry,
Yeah, and that anger seemed to fuel this massive shift.
leading to this huge vision, good health for every human being.
And the commitment to spend the rest of his life basically on health and development through the Gates Foundation.
You really see that commitment in his 2011 speech to the World Health Assembly.
Absolutely. He gave a lot of credit to the WHO, for setting standards for global cooperation. He mentioned eradicating smallpox as a huge win for humanity.
He seemed pretty optimistic, didn't he?
He did. He cited this book, Getting Better, by Charles Kenny.
What was the point there?
The book argued that quality of life, things like child survival, life expectancy, were actually improving even faster than just looking at economic growth might suggest.
Okay.
And Gates' belief was if people really understood these successes, it would drive more progress, more funding.
And a huge focus for him driving that progress was vaccines.
Oh, definitely. He declared 2011 to 2020 the decade of vaccines.
He called vaccines extremely elegant technology.
Yeah, inexpensive, easy to deliver, often lifelong protection. He even compared them to the kind of powerful, simple tech he used to dream about back at Microsoft.
So what were the goals for this decade of vaccines?
Pretty ambitious. Eradicate polio, finally.
Still working on that one.
Still working on it, yeah. Get 5 or more new vaccines out globally. And set up delivery systems so every child in every country could get them.
He also made a strong economic case, right?
Very much so. Healthy people mean productive people, thriving economies. He used pneumonia vaccines as an example.
How so?
Reduce child deaths from pneumonia. And you free up that country's potential. You let people contribute their full energy, as he put it.
And they did see some real wins during that decade.
Undeniably. New vaccines for pneumonia and rotavirus got rolled out much faster in developing countries than they might have otherwise.
And the meningitis, a vaccine?
Yeah, that was a huge success story. Developed specifically for the African meningitis belt. Cases dropped dramatically in places like Burkina Faso.
He also stressed it wasn't just about the vaccines themselves, but the systems.
Absolutely. Strong immunization systems, local leadership. He pointed to Bihar State in India.
What happened there?
The chief minister, Nitish Kumar, made vaccination a priority and managed to double their rates to over 60%. Shows what local commitment can do.
So his message was multifaceted.
Right. A call to action for everyone. Donor countries need to invest more.
To save millions of lives.
Pharmaceutical companies need to develop affordable vaccines using tiered pricing.
So poorer countries can actually buy them.
And the countries themselves, the member states, needed to make vaccines a top health priority.
So global health is clearly huge for the Gates Foundation, but it's not all they do.
No, definitely not. Their scope is pretty broad.
Like what else?
Well, there's water, sanitation, hygiene, wash initiatives, big focus on agriculture.
Like supporting golden rice.
Yeah, the genetically modified rice designed to combat vitamin A deficiency, plus family planning programs.
And outside the foundation, Gates himself invests heavily in other areas too, right? Climate change.
Big time. He's got his company TerraPower working on advanced nuclear reactors. They have a project in Wyoming.
Nuclear energy, interesting.
And he's backed plant-based meat companies like Impossible Foods.
Trying to tackle climate from multiple angles.
Seems like it. And just on a more personal level, the sources mention his reading habit.
Oh yeah, the 50 books a year thing.
And the think weeks. Twice a year, he supposedly goes off-grid just to read and think.
Imagine having the time and discipline for that. It does give you a sense of how he approaches big problems.
That's strategic thinking time.
Right. But of course, with that much influence, that much money, scrutiny follows. And there's been plenty of criticism over the years.
For sure. And some of it goes way back, even to the Microsoft days.
The antitrust stuff.
Like, exactly. accusations of being a monopoly. That big lawsuit in 1998 from the U.S. government and multiple states,
What were the main complaints?
that Microsoft used its dominance with Windows to crush competitors, stifle innovation, like bundling Internet Explorer with Windows to hurt Netscape Navigator.
Right, I remember that. So, criticisms of business practices. But his philanthropy, even though it does so much good, hasn't been immune to criticism either.
No, it hasn't. One common critique you hear, mentioned in some sources, is that the foundation's approach can be very top-down.
Meaning?
Decisions made by a small group of very wealthy people in Seattle, potentially dictating solutions or priorities, without enough local input or understanding of needs on the ground.
Okay. Any other concerns?
Potential conflicts of interest sometimes get raised,
Like what?
like the foundation holding investments in fossil fuel companies while also funding climate change initiatives, or investments in pharmaceutical companies whose drug prices might be a barrier in the places the foundation works. It can look contradictory to some.
Gotcha. And his work in U.S. education has also stirred things up.
Yeah, quite a bit of controversy there. His strong backing of charter schools, for instance.
Critics say that takes money away from traditional public schools,
Right. And also the foundation's focus on standardized testing.
which some argue narrows what's taught and puts too much pressure on students and teachers.
Exactly. So debates about the best way to improve education.
And then there's the personal lifestyle criticism.
Ah, yeah. The climate advocate who uses private jets extensively.
It's an optics issue for some. They argue his large carbon footprint undermines his message on climate change.
It's definitely a point critics bring up.
Okay, now, we need to shift gears a bit. Some of the sources we looked at offer a, let's say, different perspective on Gates's work.
A more critical, perhaps even suspicious lens.
Right. One that frames his influence less as pure charity and more about, well, control.
Yeah.
And we need to be really clear here. These are interpretations and arguments from those specific sources. We're reporting on what they claim, not endorsing it.
Absolutely crucial distinction. So what's the core of this narrative?
It often starts with comments Gates himself has made, like one from Davos back in 2010.
What did he say?
He was talking about CO2 reduction and linked new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services to potentially lowering projected population growth by 10 or 15%.
Okay. How did he explain that?
His explanation, and the standard demographic transition theory, is that when health improves and children survive, parents tend to have fewer children, not more. So better health paradoxically leads to slower population growth.
Right, that's a well-known demographic effect. But how do the critical sources interpret it?
They seize on the lowering population part and connect it to a perceived agenda of population control rather than just a side effect of better health. And these sources try to find historical context for this idea.
They do. Some point back to the Rockefeller Foundation decades ago, funding research into things like immunological methods to reduce fertility, basically vaccine-based contraception.
Okay.
They mention alleged development of anti-HCG vaccine prototypes by the mid-90s, and then bring up controversial accusations from the 90s, never definitively proven on a wide scale. It should be said that some tetanus vaccine campaigns in places like the Philippines or Kenya might have been secretly laced with HCG to cause infertility.
Wow, that's a serious historical allegation they're referencing.
Very serious. And these sources then link that controversial history to the Gates Foundation's current funding of things like injectable contraceptives for women in developing countries.
So they're drawing a line, suggesting a continuity of intent focused on population management.
That's the argument presented in those materials, yes. That it's framed as health or family planning, but the underlying goal, they suggest, is controlling population numbers.
This narrative then seems to weave in technology, specifically digital identity.
Right. It moves from vaccines and contraceptives to tracking people.
Yeah.
Gates has talked about the potential for digital certificates or immunity passports.
To show vaccination status or recovery from illness?
Exactly. His stated reason is public health management. But the critics see it differently.
How so?
They worry it could create a system where basic rights travel, access to services, maybe even work, depend on having this digital proof, a potential tool for control.
And they connect this to specific projects.
Yes. Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, which Gates co-founded and heavily funds, has openly explored secure digital identification systems linked to immunization records.
Yeah.
They mention things like the Kushi baby necklace in India, a wearable digital health record,
Okay.
and maybe the most Sci-fi sounding example is research funded by MIT and the Gates Foundation into barcode tattoos.
Or tattoos. Seriously.
Invisible quantum dot patterns delivered under the skin along with a vaccine, scannable by a smartphone to instantly see vaccination history.
That definitely sounds like something out of a movie.
It does. The researchers presented it as a way to keep track of records in places without robust healthcare infrastructure. But critics see it as, a literal marking and tracking mechanism.
And how does India's big ID system fit into this picture for these critics?
Aadhaar, India's massive biometric ID system. Gates has praised it publicly. It was co-designed by his friend Nandan Nilekani.
And Gates is funding efforts to expand this kind of digital ID globally.
Yes, through the World Bank's ID4D initiative Identification for Development. The stated goal is inclusion, helping people access services. But critics see it as building the infrastructure for universal digital tracking.
And this digital ID, according to these sources, connects to another big push, a cashless society.
Exactly. Gates himself has talked about how lack of formal ID prevents people from accessing financial services.
And he supported India's move to demonetize, to push people towards digital payments.
Yeah, he did praise it as a step towards a fully digitized economy. And the Gates Foundation actually co-founded something called the Better Than Cash Alliance.
Aimed at accelerating the shift away from physical cash globally.
Right. The argument for it is efficiency, transparency, financial inclusion.
But the critics.
They argue it eliminates financial privacy, creates a permanent digital trail of every transaction, and it could enable financial exclusion, locking people out of the economy if their transactions are flagged or if they can't or won't comply with the digital system.
They also point to other investments.
Some sources mention Gates' investment in a company called EarthNow, LLC.
What do they do?
Their plan is, or was, to deploy a large constellation of satellites providing real-time continuous video of almost anywhere on Earth.
Real-time video. Everywhere.
That was a stated goal. For critics, this just adds another layer to the surveillance potential they see emerging from these interconnected initiatives.
So pulling all these threads together, the vaccines population angle, the digital ID, the cashless society push, the surveillance tech,
Yeah.
what's the ultimate picture painted by these critical sources?
They frame it as much more than just disparate projects. They see it as components converging towards a kind of population control grid or a hard reset of society.
Driven by an ideology that, in their view, goes way beyond just charity.
Some even draw, controversially, parallels to historical eugenics movements, suggesting a desire to manage and control populations on a global scale.
Again, it's vital to stress these are specific, critical interpretations from the source materials we reviewed. It's a very different narrative from the mainstream view of his philanthropy.
Absolutely. A much darker interpretation of his influence and goals.
So, wrapping this all up, Bill Gates, clearly a figure of enormous, undeniable impact.
No question about that. His journey from tech pioneer to global philanthropist is pretty unique.
And it's marked by, on the one hand, huge admiration for the work on global health, the lives saved, the progress driven.
And on the other hand, significant debate, scrutiny, criticism about the methods, the sheer scale of his influence, and as we just discussed, even questions about the underlying motivations from some quarters.
His story, as we've unpacked from these sources, really encapsulates the power of modern technology, immense wealth, and the real complexities that emerge when those forces intersect on a global stage.
We've seen the potential for incredible progress, but also the anxieties about control, about who decides the future.
So as you, the listener, reflect on all this, what really stands out to you? Where do you see the balance between global progress, driven by figures like Gates, and individual agency, our own choices and freedoms, in this increasingly connected, technologically advanced world?
That's the big question to ponder, isn't it?